Pakistan as our greatest supporter, and we will even have a nuclear weapon if necessary. This was something that I uttered to create chills in the backbone of those Indian retired generals. In the Hasina era, she thought that this was her father's property. The agreements signed with the Indians were all frauds, and we have kicked out, almost one fourth of those Indians out of Bangladesh. When we got East Pakistan, we were denied the Northeast, we were denied Tripura, we were denied the Arakan. These are not gone forever. Maps are being redrawn every 70 years. If India survives in its present territorial form, it will try to turn us into a puppet. Because Indians are feeling the pinch of retaining Hasina. They have committed not only genocide in the country, they have committed treason. It would be something like as if we are both the same armies, the same military, forces. That is a dream we relish.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the TFT Perspective. Viewers, Bangladesh of 2024 is very different. What we had witnessed in June 2024, the student uprising that actually shook the foundations of the Sheikh Hasina regime, and she had to move her bags towards India. Well, what we witness right now is like a storm of disinformation coming from Indian media, especially their BJP stalwarts against Bangladesh. In the region as a whole, especially when it comes to a very sensitive location, how difficult it is to govern Bangladesh, especially with the new regime, with the new interim government. And we have a very special guest today, Professor Shahiduzzaman, who is a very renowned professor inside Bangladesh. He's teaching inside Dhaka University, and he has taken the social media by storm, especially amongst the Indian media. And he's currently advising the government as well in creating a policy against the hegemonic designs of India. So, thank you so much for joining us, Professor. We welcome you to our show.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah. So, Professor, when it comes to Bangladesh, how do you see difference when it comes to the pre-Hasina Bangladesh and now the post-Hasina Bangladesh?
Thank you so much. It's amazing. It's amazing. As we feel like we are a free country now. I mean, everybody seems to talk to each other with a sense of optimism. The times that we had in the Hasina era were ridiculous. She thought that this was her father's property, and she forced us to believe that her father, we should treat her dad as the father of the nation. She would always try and say, you not call Sheikh Mujib her father, she would call the father of the nation. And we felt so disgusted. Here was a woman who has been propped up by the Indians, who never actually got ever elected. Nobody could even go and vote. The entire younger generation thrice, 12 years, three elections, 4-year terms, just got wasted without proper voting. And we could realize the implication of not being able to vote because we had seen that during the Zia period, the Khalida Zia period, elections had gone on very fairly. Like everyone could cast their own vote. Millions of rural women had come up and had used their voting power. So people, irrespective of their social status, knew the importance of their vote. Even in remote parts of the country, the women, the elderly men would come out. And suddenly, three consecutive terms, we have been forced into a reality where the Indians were putting the strings, and they simply forced her to accept all their terms, which she happily accepted. We realized later on that she was using her father's identity to sell away the country, to sell away our vital interests. So when all of it ended, it almost felt like a dream, like waking up every day, not just me, an elderly man, but the younger people. up in the streets, in the shops, in the coffee houses, in restaurants, even the waiters, the known waiters would come up and say, Alhamdulillah, sir, we are so happy. Everybody would recite the name of Allah and say, Allah, you have saved us. This country is free again. We are like a Muslim country. We feel like Muslims and we are free from any Indian impositions on us. That was something absolutely, psychologically, it felt delighted, though we are a crowded country, huge population, so much of, rush in the capital city, crowded. But in spite of all of that, most people had happy looks in their face. And the ones who were army leaguers, who were Hasina's supporters, they simply were hiding. They would never show their face. The realization was that the Army League had committed such crimes, not just forcing us to go under Indian influence, but even using firepower, shooting at the students. And there were rumors that Indian sharpshooters had entered the country. It's yet to be tried. There's a trial which is coming up, and hopefully it would be found out whether the Indians had actually gotten inside our boundaries and had served as Hasina's sharpshooters. There were people who were seen speaking Hindi. There were some people who looked very different and had bangles on their hands and had little ornament on their ears. They didn't look like Bengalis. And they were seen, they were photographed. And we are yet to find out the real truth about how the Indians desperately tried to retain Hasina in power. But thank God it's all over now.
Okay, Professor, this is Wakar Khan. Apparently, Bangladesh is basically under a lot of pressure from India, and Indian media is, I think, playing a hybrid war against Bangladesh because they've lost their biggest ally. They have raised the bogey of Hindu genocide, which we know. Luckily, we had a chance to, let's say, stay in Bangladesh for a year during training, and we made very good friends, and we know it's a very tolerant society. But now the pressure we have seen in Agartala, Tripura, protests and actually assault on Deputy High Commissioner's office, then protests against your High Commission in Delhi. How do you feel that Bangladesh should be able to weather this storm, especially on the media? And then there's also talk of, let's say, economic strangulation. We know Bangladeshis are very resilient people, but how do you feel that Bangladesh will be able to tackle this situation?
Thanks. There are so much of discussion going on the television media. Uh, so many talk shows going on. We are not at all really threatened much so seriously with the economic crisis, in spite of the fact that Hasina and the Army League has robbed the country of several billions of dollars, just Hasina herself and a group of Hasina's favorite business elite and the ministers and entire bunch of these Awami Leaguers who have escaped the country and have gone abroad. We felt at first that the banking system would collapse, but fortunately, we have had some very good economists taking over. Dr. Yunus himself picked up some brilliant men, Bangladeshi expatriates working in the United States, teaching and having very good links with the World Bank and Western financial agencies. We have weathered the initial storm. In fact, the debt payments have gone on very well, and the foreign exchange reserves are going up. The remittance is also going up. All the economic indicators show that whatever the Indians had spread, all those rumors about Bangladesh's economic collapse, they are now licking their fingers. Calcutta is about to go hungry because most of their great restaurants have no people inside. We see the Indian television. Kolkata television setup. On the one hand, you find these media people hurling such horrible lies at us, saying that how the Indians could ever imagine that the Hasina regime could have brought us so close to them. They were imagining fictions. The Hasina regime was corrupt, bankrupt, unelected, and whatever the agreements signed with the Indians were all frauds. And we all knew it. The Indians knew it, and yet they keep on, saying that how Bangladesh could have gone away from their fold. It's as if they have lost their target. The in Calcutta, the or many of the New Market area, they are showing the streets. It's all vacant. The shops are going bankrupt, and all their showing off about how they will teach us a lesson is proving like a nightmare for them. Inshallah, by the grace of God, our people are recovering well. We will get back our prosperity. Inshallah, people still have lots of money to spend. The sea beach in Cox's Bazar over the last holidays are packed with people. The hotels are packed with people. And there is the younger generation having a great time in all the cafes and restaurants. We feel great. And it is so nice to think that we will again be good friends, normal friends with Pakistan. People are talking about flights being resumed to Pakistan, and everybody is having a great time saying that we don't care going to India. We're going to travel to Lahore. We're going to fly to Karachi. We're going to see those beautiful mountain resorts in Kashmir. There is so much on our private channels now on tourism in Pakistan. People. Yeah, I had taken my students to Pakistan twice in 1989 and in 1995 when I was chairman of the department. And then 50 of my students, half of them female, we had such wonderful times. And then other batches. Every year, all the departments would crowd to travel to Pakistan. We had this SARC study tours, and 15 years there has been no travel to Pakistan by the younger generation. And we just, everybody recollects those memories of Shalimar Gardens, the great food in Lahore, food street, and then friendships which were struck up by my students in the Punjab University. Our girls were sharing the same rooms with the females in Punjab University. The first night, they were like strangers. They looked at each other. The next morning, when they came to the TSC, our students were a bit puzzled, said, "Sir, they don't talk to us." I said, "Doesn't matter. Go ahead. Let's see what happens the next 2 days." And the next 2 days, nights, our girls hardly could get sleep. They talked so much with the Punjab University hostel girls. They embraced each other. They heard their stories and found out that we were so similar in our aspirations, in our career building. The students had great times at Peshawar University. They even intermingled. We spent 5 days at Peshawar University. So, I'm just saying this to let you know that there is a younger urban generation at the university which looks forwards to visits, informal visits, Pakistani young generation coming to Dhaka, going over to Lahore, going over to Chittagong, Cox's Bazar, the Sundarbans, and we will have our. So we really, I just pray to Allah that our relations move in a smooth manner. That's what I want.
Yeah. So you mentioned in one of your talks, Professor, that India is trying to encroach into Bangladesh territory to create a so-called zone in order to protect the Hindus in Bangladesh. And can India actually afford such a military move? And is this threat really being discussed amongst the Bangladeshi government?
Very much, very much. There is the Bangladeshi people are very agile now. They read newspapers. Even a guard in the apartment complex would get the newspaper copy and go read every line of it. We are aware of the way the Indians are trying to demonize us regarding the Hindus. The Hindus are actually just 8% of the population, but they are very vocal. They had enjoyed so much freedom. Compared to the 8%, the Hindus occupied 35% of bureaucratic positions. They had sat in the bureaucratic as secretarial positions. They have occupied police positions. They were really almost like a ruling elite in Bangladesh under Hasina's times. And the Indian government had clearly, the Indian intelligence agencies were working so deep inside our country, inside the bureaucracy, inside the police. And the Hasina government was advised by the BJP that the more Hindus are employed, the more trustworthy and loyal they would be, and the longer would be the times that the regime would survive. I was so surprised. There was this Hindu uh, bus company owner, Shamoli Travels, who used to ply buses, even does today between Dhaka and Calcutta, and other cities, Chittagong and Calcutta. And these buses would go full with our visitors who would go shopping in India, go for tourism in India. So, and this bus company owner was quoted as saying that he would like to see that one day Bangladesh and India would be united, and he would go to his mandir, and go to his goddess and make those utterances. We just felt absolutely shocked. Today in Bangladesh, we are absolutely determined that we would never allow that the repetition of those old games. It's taking a long time. The military, the intelligence, they are having sleepless nights trying to do the homework to get rid of so much of the literature, so much of the formalities that had forced us to succumb to Indian pressures. Fortunately, over the last 3 months, a lot of the agreements, illicit agreements have been cancelled. For example, they had their internet links with the Northeast through Bangladesh, and they had there's a technical term for it, that would cover the networks, their entire networks to Bangladesh, bandwidth or whatever. All of it have been now been cancelled by Bangladesh. We have also stopped the Indian connectivity of bus service between Agartala and Calcutta. We have also stopped all their sea river routes, and we have cancelled everything. Right now, the relationship is clearly one of, whether you like it or not, is conscious distancing. We, even when the Indian Foreign Secretary came to Dhaka, there was a border shooting, and that has flared up tempers. The Indian Foreign Secretary has left Dhaka without any formal meeting with the media. He uttered his own words, but he wouldn't admit that the way they treated our Deputy High Commission in Agartala, in Calcutta, clearly violated diplomatic norms. Right after the incidents of attack in our High Commission, the Assistant High Commissioners in both Agartala and the Deputy High Commissioner in Calcutta have been recalled back to Dhaka. We have stopped giving visas to the Indians. Agartala and Calcutta, now we have cut down on Indian visas. And they have also now cut down on the visas that they used to give to Bangladesh. That's fine with us. We don't miss India. The Indians are going to starve because Bangladesh has been the second largest source of foreign exchange for Indians. 28 lakhs Indians were working in Bangladesh. 28 lakhs. And we are counting those figures. We are looking at their validity of their visas, and we have kicked out, almost 1/4 of those Indians out of Bangladesh. So, and they are absolutely, wouldn't admit it, but we see their private channels, and they clearly are suffering. West Bengal is the worst sufferer, and Calcutta is going to have to face looking for new alternative jobs for all those hotel owners and all those, yeah, clinics and hospitals which used to be run with Bangladeshi money. It's all going to be over for them for the time being.
I think that's very encouraging because the perception that Indian media is building is definitely negative. And when we look at the brave people of Bangladesh, and here also, I think I remember some of the war games which we had done with our Bengali brothers. It was said that in case there is a crisis, inshallah, Pakistan army would come into play, and I'm sure gradually we can look into that direction also because it's a mutual defense of two brothers. Now I come to Sheikh Hasina pointed out that the revolution of Bangladesh was sponsored by the West, and it was to target India or to diminish its role and then create a Christian state in the Indian Northeast. We know that what is happening because of India's and RSS own doing in the Northeast. Manipur is burning. You have Nagaland now looking for independence. You have, Lal Dhoma of Mizoram also pointing out what speech he did. So maybe it's born out of frustration. But how do you give credence to this theory or conspiracy theory by Sheikh Hasina that the West wanted to establish? She pointed to Americans actually, a Christian state bordering India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar.
And she's just using the United States as a scapegoat. The Americans were very frustrated because they wanted to see free and fair elections, and the Indians were able to operate in Washington and force the American ambassador here to give up his efforts for a free and fair election. It was very embarrassing for the United States what they had seen, the way the Indians manipulated the political system here and put Hasina into power once again. The Americans really never approved of it. And as our student uprising emerged, the United States had nothing to do with it. The students who rose up, they were originally, it all started from serious female students of the science faculties in Curzon Hall and in all, students of biochemistry, microbiology, physics, doctors, these female students who had never ever understood politics, they started the whole thing. They wanted to clean up the values. And then the non-political students also got very encouraged by it. So all of it was homegrown, homemade. The Americans had nothing to do with it. But the thing is that we just when you mentioned about our question of Indian threat, there was a fear that the Indians might intervene militarily, even. There were rumors that they would try to cut off our northern part of the country near the Shiliguri corridor and then turn it into a Hindu desh. They were even propagating that Hindus should all go to the northern edge of the country and they would like to create some sort of a sliced up portion for Hindus, the way the Russians did in Georgia. Something, even they talked about it, that they would follow the Russian model. There was General Sharma and General Bakshi who used their private channels to suggest that the India has to do it. I was smart enough, I guess. It was God given. I mean, it was divine. I never thought of it. But when I was requested to deliver a lecture at the RAWA, Retired Armed Forces Officers, I don't know how, by God's grace, I uttered the words that we are going to have Pakistan as our greatest supporter, and we will even have a nuclear weapon if necessary. This was something that I uttered to create chills in the backbone of those Indian retired generals, and they actually admitted that it was chilling. They could never imagine that any Bangladeshi could go to the extent of first suggesting that Pakistan would again be a reliable friend, and second, to even utter the prospect of nuclear weapons. But this was all that create this psychological fear in them that we will go to any extent to kick out any Indian plans to invade our territory. Even now, they keep on talking about getting Chittagong separated from Bangladesh. There is this narrow corridor, 25 miles, that separate Tripura from the Bay of Bengal across the Feni. And these Indians have been showing it in their maps regularly that they would try to. But Chittagong is the land of 12 awliyas, the 12 saints like you have in Multan. Multan is
That's
the
right.
home of saints. And Chittagong for us is the home of great saints. It's not just Hazrat Shah Jalal in Sylhet. There is Shah Paran and others in Chittagong. How can they ever perceive that they could take away Chittagong? They started talking about Mahabharata times when they thought that Chittagong was there with some other name. So when we saw all these things, the whole country got united. Even today, when you see our military has come back to its old form, we have acquired weapons. We are continuing. The only worry for us is to what extent can we get the Chinese to really separate their interests from Myanmar, because the Chinese are so busy with the breakaway trends in Myanmar, and the Chinese have been, sued um, um, by the Indians. The Indians have been trying much to woo the Chinese and to try and draw up some arrangement. But we just hope that our foreign policy planners, although this is an interim government and it doesn't have that type of a popular consent, but we still believe that our relations must be. Hasina had damaged our ties with China so badly that that old link that we had as our military partner, that is gone. But I had still proposed that we would like to see China as our on our borders, or eventually in the long run, and whatever is required, we'll do to ensure that Indians, do not have the type of support that they ever had. We'd like to see India cut off in the Northeast. We would like to see the people in the Northeast fight for their self-determination. And inshallah, will help the Northeast, Assam and the Seven Sisters, you know, fight for their freedom. We'd like to see India, given a proper treat for what it had tried to do to us.
So, Professor, you mentioned that you were formulating a national security policy, especially a framework, I would say, regarding the Indian hegemonic designs and how Bangladesh is going to defend against it. So, can you explain or summarize a bit about that?
Exactly. We now recognize that there is a real threat from India. During the last 15 years, Hasina had conceded so much to India with the expectation perhaps that her regime would survive in power. But she had never imagined that Indians were developing a scheme to really turn our country into some sort of a Nepal or Bhutan, where they would eventually force connectivity without any reciprocity, and also they would even ensure that our military is regularly controlled by their designs from Delhi regarding who would be the chief or who would hold whatever position. Even they were planning to have an influence over our arms purchases. Now, this has all ended. Our future designs are to develop, number one, restore our very close ties with China, because China is our immediate northern neighbor. We would like to see that our air power is restored. There is some talk about the joint China-Pakistan aircraft. There's also the talk about purchasing the Eurofighter. There are also good negotiations going on with the French and the United States. But ultimately, we need to develop our military capability to a far greater extent. It is something like we have to be like Israel, confronting the Indians. Our military manpower has gone over 10 divisions now, and it would go even larger. We not only have a threat from India. Right now, the Indians have been provoking the Arakan army in Myanmar across our borders in the southeast to have some sort of dirty tricks on our borders. But we know clearly that the defense of the Arakan army, their future in Rakhine, cannot ever be completed without dependence on us because we are the other side of the Naf River and we control the access to the Bay of Bengal. We would like to see that the Chinese eventually develop, they have developed our submarine base. We'd like to see greater presence of China within our coastal areas. We would like to see more Chinese ships flying on our maritime boundaries on India, the Indian East Coast. We would like to see eventually a very close ties with Pakistan so that it's mutually beneficial to both. We wish to see Pakistan develop its military power in the eastern sector too, across Bay of Bengal, because there is an Indo-Pacific strategy where the Indians wish to dominate the Indian Ocean. We do not want to see that the Indians should surround us on all four sides. We are actually in a dilemma regarding American trustworthiness of the Indians. The Americans are often discouraged from entering the Bay of Bengal with their naval ships. The Indians want to treat the Bay of Bengal as their area. And they have been developing secret ties, negotiations with the Chinese. But that had happened during the times when the Chinese felt convinced that we were almost inside the Indian belly. But it has come as a real shock to the Chinese that we have been able to throw out the Indian yoke, we have been able to throw out Hasina, and there is total national unity. But it would take time for the Chinese to be totally convinced that they can treat us as a reliable ally. I think China is very important for us to be able to safeguard our northern frontier, to be able to safeguard our coastal areas. We have huge deposits of gas and oil in the deep sea and our continental shelf. One good thing that Hasina has done is she has demarcated the maritime boundaries successfully. The Indians, if they try to encroach on us, which they have done, we will not allow it. The Myanmar, if it is broken up, we will make sure that reckon we make the right type of balance between the United States and the Chinese naval presence in the Bay of Bengal. We would like to raise those huge deposits of gas and oil, which the Myanmar side has done. Myanmar has successfully ejected huge amounts of gas, which is being exported to China. And China would like to see that the entire bay, which borders us, is kept secure from insurgency or from threats. It would be a challenge for us to persuade the Chinese that they should focus on us as a steady, united country rather than Myanmar, which is falling apart. It would also be a challenge for us to make sure that whatever the Indians may have tried to persuade China regarding their ability to influence our security has all gone into thin air. Now we would like to see China develop greater access through Doklam and across what they call southern Tibet. If they have claims on southern Tibet, which the Indians call Arunachal, we would like to ensure the Chinese that we would be on their side. That is the way we would like to develop the trust and faith of China. And in return, we would expect that the Northeast would get its right of self-determination, that the people of Assam, Manipur, Nagaland, all of these people can exercise their right of self-determination. For that, we would like to have close links with China. And so we have schemes for the future, and I work on it There are other friends who are working on it. There are people in the military, the retired people who also have similar thoughts. Because ultimately we realize that it would be a zero-sum game. If India survives in its present territorial form, it will try to turn us into a puppet. And if we want to survive as an independent country, our future lies in ensuring that the people in the Northeast enjoy the right of self-determination. That, I think, briefly, is the area of security paradigm that I'm working on right now.
I think these are great thoughts, and just add that okay, Bangladesh may be vulnerable, but India is also now talking of three and a half front. Initially, it used to be Pakistan, China, and let's say so-called terrorism, but now they see Bangladesh as another threat. So I'm sure when they are looking at Bangladesh, they must know that there are two adversaries and one old brother from past Pakistan, and inshallah we'll come to the rescue. I think Pakistan will be able to fix a lot of forces, and they will have no forces really to affect Bangladesh. Now, my next question is related to Dr. Yunus' government and this leadership we have seen. Despite his old age, I think he has been uh, leading from the forefront, and he was recommended by, I think, the youth of Bangladesh. But what are the challenges? Because the perception being built by India normally is that probably there are serious economic challenges, and there's issue of legitimacy of the government and all that. But we know basically this is a new Bangladesh. So how do you foresee the challenges? The governance challenge, then is the economy, and how this new team can take Bangladesh forward.
Yes, this is very important. You know, Dr. Yunus is a smart cookie. He has He's in his mid 80s, but his instincts are sharp and he understands capitalist economics. He has used his brains to give capitalism a human form. That is what has made Dr. Yunus so acceptable both to the Democrats and the Republicans in the United States. Indians have been feeling very coy that with President Trump coming to power, they would be able to restore their old influence in Bangladesh. They have been thinking that with Tulsi Packard and Mr. Patel, both holding high positions in American intelligence, they would be able to exert pressure in the South Asian region. But right now, as we know, both these Indian origin people are having a tough time getting the approval of the Senate. Then India has been categorized as an uncooperative country yesterday by the United States government. And right now, Modi faces huge criticism within his coalition. It's quite possible that the coalition government of Modi would get weaker each and every day. In the meantime, Professor Yunus have taken initiatives. We had some excellent mid-level executives who have worked on money laundering, who have worked on banking sectors. So we can hopefully retrieve billions of dollars which have been stolen away. It's not millions, it's billions. Billions of dollars which have been stolen away. Fortunately, a lot of it can be retrieved. The Americans have shown all the support. The European Union has shown all the support for us. And we, we have several commissions which have been set up to humanize the constitution, to humanize the bureaucracy, to make it corruption free. There are lots of efforts to bring in accountability, and there would be a certainty that nobody would be elected beyond 2 terms. Yesterday, the Supreme Court has given a verdict restoring the caretaker government and also restoring intervention by the armed forces if there are pressing times that require its intervention. We have there is tremendous pressure on the commissions before next elections, these things have to be worked out. The most important focus is accountability. We have to have a parliament where there is free voting, there is no type of corruption, no prime minister will be allowed to stay in power for more than 2 terms. We would want to see a democratic process that can take into account the prospect of elitist accumulation of wealth. You know, we know that there is tremendous wealth under the sea, just like the way we had the good news that Pakistan has also, been able to discover huge amounts of gas and oil across its shores. We pray that Pakistan will be able to acquire its, financial strength with the resources that are there. We have the same aim for us. In the last 15 years, Hasina has been so busy looting the country. She never decided to explore our deep sea, oil. And we need that deep sea oil to generate electricity, which will be the urbanization in Bangladesh is unbelievable. It's almost like this whole country could turn into a Singapore. The roads are there, the buildings are propped up. You hardly see villages where there is no structure. There are townships which have sprawled up all over the country. But inshallah, every morning in the twilight, it is the sound of azan that covers every beat of the country with the sound of the sweet sound of azan in the early morning with millions of people going to their prayers. We need to find a balance under Professor Yunus's leadership where we could strive between spiritual well-being, a freedom from the lust for wealth, so that people can learn to live corrupt-free lives. We should be able to live like proper Muslims, not like Muslims with double standards. We want to bring back the image of Islam. We want to bring back virtues into our daily lives. Bhutan, which is our next door neighbor, has a preamble like the pursuit of happiness. And the Bhutanese people, who are very close to us, other than India, have kept their people free of pollution, free of industrialization. We are overcrowded. We would like to see that in the near future, our people can move more into the east, into the regions which were denied to us in 1947. When we got East Pakistan, we were denied the Northeast, we were denied Tripura, we were denied the Arakan. These are not gone forever. Maps are being redrawn every 70 years. The boundaries may shift. We just want to make sure that our people can spread out. Our people are willing to do anything to improve their lives. So, like our brothers in Pakistan, we will both encourage each other, we will both inspire each other so that we can improve our lives.
Yes, so Professor, I have a two-part question. Basically, a lot of people wanted to learn that how does Awami League fit into the scenario? Can they be reinstated in the mainstream or be allowed to participate in elections? And when it comes to the legacy of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and then his daughter Sheikh Hasina, it was considered very taboo when it came to Pakistan Bangladesh relations. It was always on a rocky side, There was no, I would say, diplomatic solution to it. It was always confusion as well as hatred coming from both sides against each other. Can we repair this bridge in the coming future, and how can we do that?
Thank you very much. As for the first question, the future of Awami League, that would be decided by the trials that are going on right now, where the trials will be held fairly. A British twins attorney has come and visited us. Our trial process of the Awami League leaders have been approved by the International Human Rights Commission. And also, by the British judicial members who have come here. If the trials are held fairly, and if we could get Hasina tried, because Indians are feeling the pinch of retaining Hasina in their cage, but we want to see her duly tried. Once the trials are held, I think for as this present Prime Minister caretaker government Chief Yunus has said that until the trials are held, Awami League cannot be allowed to take part in any future elections. And there is this huge mood in the country which will absolutely never tolerate any Awami Leaguer to contest in the election because they have committed not only genocide in the country, they have committed treason. It is well understood that the Awami League was a country that did not believe in the sovereignty of our country. And the Awami League leaders tried to sell off the country to the Indians, tried to turn us into a vassal state. So overwhelming feeling is that the Awami League will cease to exist as a political force in the country. It believes in fascism and it simply cannot survive without fascism. Now, there is a huge debate which is going out about the role of Sheikh Mujib and his status in this country's politics. He is been rejected by the mainstream of the people and also by the Supreme Court in terms of being classified as father of the nations. That's all garbage. Sheikh Mujib is being waived. It's one of our most prominent historians, Badruddin Omar, who has lived a very serious, committed scholarly life. He has even said that Sheikh Mujib hardly believed in the birth of Bangladesh. His his very role was controversial. He surrendered. It was General Zia who declared the freedom, and he led the Bengal regiment to fight. And Sheikh Mujib's party did everything to turn us into an Indian stooge. However, there is also a lot of debate about Sheikh Mujib being very successful in getting rid of the Indian army in 1971 within 4 months after his coming. And he had fought back a lot against the Indians and Mrs. Gandhi to be able to go to Lahore to join the Islamic summit. Those are some of the positive aspects of it. But the fact remains that Bangladesh will not look back again on trying to find excuses not to have close ties with Pakistan. Whatever had happened, the question of apology, these were basically Awami League tricks to create a distance between the two countries. I mean, anybody with common sense would know that if there is a question of apology, it will come from the heart. You can't demand the apology. That's absolutely mechanical. If our brothers in Pakistan feel sorry for 1971, it will come from their hearts. And that is exactly what we wish. If our relationship has to grow in depth, then it will grow out of feelings of fraternity. But what the Army Leaguers were trying to do is they were trying to follow an Indian card. It was totally an Indian ploy to make sure that Pakistan and Bangladesh remain distant from each other. Even the Indians had forced our University of Dhaka to cut off all ties with Pakistani universities, which has thankfully been restored. Our links with Dhaka University has again restored its links with Pakistan. We would like to see that in the near future, there will be so much of military cooperation. We would like to see Pakistani people, training people coming to train our troops in Bangladesh. We'd like to see Pakistan's army officers visiting Bangladesh, coming to our cantonments, spending vacations, spending times inspecting the quality of our soldiers. We would like to see them come and, monitor the quality of our military capability. That is the type of cooperation. It would be something like as if we are both the same armies, the same military forces so that we care for each other the way we used to do when we were one country together. That is a dream we relish. Most people here want to see Pakistan and as our brothers, just like the way it used to be. And I think it is Allah's desire. Allah has destined that we should be together again.
Yeah. So thank you so much for Professor. This has been one hell of a talk when it came to the overall region, especially the role of the new Bangladesh in the upcoming years to follow. But that's it for today, folks. Please do leave a like and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much for watching us. Goodbye.